What pen will you choose?
It's been a tough decision, but I'm leaning towards this one. It's even PFA free.
Huh? What even are PFAs? Pretty freaking awesome sauce?
You mean per and polyfluoroalkyl substances? They're heat-resistant, nearly indestructible forever chemicals that are low-key toxic. That's why I'm glad this pan is PFA free.
I had no idea. Are all PFAs the same?
No, there are 5 main PFAs. Hexafluoropropylene oxide-dimer acid, perfluorohexane sulfonic acid, perfluorononanoic acid, perfluorooctane sulfonate, and perfluorooctanoic acid.
They all feature chains of fluorinated carbons. And man, those carbon-fluoride bonds, polar covalent, they're really strong, which makes breaking them down really difficult. Are PFAs just in pans?
PFAs are in more than just the nonstick coating of pans.
They're in
aluminum cans, pizza boxes, microwave popcorn bags, food packaging, clothing, carpeting, furniture, mattress pads, waterproof tape, sticky notes, wall paint, dust, hygiene products, dental floss, nail polish, toilet paper, beauty products, electronics, shoes, turf, firefighting foam, laundry detergent, guitar strings, tap water, cooking utensils, and dishwasher detergent.
PFAs are prevalent in all the products that we can buy. They've been tested and found everywhere in the environment, from the air we breathe to the ground we walk on and even the water that we drink. Now, according to the ITRC and a 2024 study on the use of bacteria to aid in degrading PFAs, it was found that only a few PFAs could be partially degraded into non-fluorinated end products through natural processes and biological or abiotic mechanisms in the environment. Unfortunately, PFOA, one of the strongest, most common types of PFA, was not among those found to degrade. Thanks to the thermodynamic strength and high structural stability of the fluorine-carbon bonds in all PFAs, water can't dissolve them, fire can't incinerate them, and now bacteria can't degrade them.
Well, that doesn't sound environmentally friendly at all. PFAs don't just disappear. They follow a cycle in the environment, moving through water, soil, and even air. These chemicals are called forever chemicals for a reason. They persist for decades because of their incredibly strong carbon-fluorine bonds. When PFAs are released, they contaminate water sources, accumulating in wildlife and even travel long distances through the atmosphere. This means they don't just stay where they're used. They spread globally, affecting ecosystems far from their original source. The PFA cycle starts with industrial discharge and consumer product use, leading to the contamination of rivers, lakes, and groundwater. From there, PFAs enter the food chain through fish, crops, and livestock. They also linger in household dust and can even reach remote areas where they accumulate in the environment and wildlife. A recent study by the U.S. Geological Survey found that PFAs are present in nearly half of the tap water samples tested across the United States. This means that people are unknowingly being exposed through their drinking water. Crazy. PFAs enter water systems through industrial runoff, firefighting foam, and even household products that wash down drains. PFAS contamination has been detected in surface water, groundwater, and even drinking water systems. This has led to health advisories and restrictions on fish consumption. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, for example, has identified PFAs as a threat to both human health and aquatic ecosystems, as these chemicals can accumulate in fish and other wildlife, disrupting ecosystems and posing risks to people who consume contaminated fish.
Unfortunately, PFAs have been linked to a large number of adverse health effects. A recent paper from 2020 highlights how we are now only starting to understand the potential human health effects that PFOS and PFOAs, two specific types of PFAs, have on human health. This is especially important because data from human studies suggest that some PFAs can take as long as 8 to 9 years to clear from the body. Recent epidemiological research studies have highlighted how PFAs pose potential health risks for all population demographics. In general, PFAs have been linked to high cholesterol, ulcerative colitis, thyroid disease, kidney cancer, and testicular cancer. Notably, these studies found that exposure to PFOAs was probably linked to preeclampsia and pregnancy-induced hypertension. For children, a growing body of research has indicated that PFA exposure could affect growth, learning, and behavior of infants and older children, in addition to impacting the immune system and reducing vaccine-induced immune protection in children. Other epidemiological studies suggest that children receiving tetanus and diphtheria vaccines have reduced antibody production due to PFA-associated immunotoxicity, while experimental studies conducted in animal and humans found that PFA exposure was associated with an increased risk of respiratory tract and gastrointestinal infections. This can potentially have major effects on public health because small shifts in immune function in individuals can have major impacts at the population level, leading to increased risk of infection from community-based pathogens.
So we've talked about how PFAs are everywhere and how they harm our health and linger in the environment. Well, there are several more sophisticated filter mechanisms being used to remove PFAs from the water.
Granular activated carbon, or GAC, is one of the most common methods. GAC is made from materials like coal, wood, and even coconut shells that are heated to create a porous, sponge-like structure. It works by trapping PFAs onto its surface as water flows through. It's used in many water treatment plants and is pretty effective, but it's not perfect. According to the EPA, GAC is effective for removing long-chain PFAs like PFOA or PFOs. However, it has limitations. Shorter-chain PFAs are harder to capture due to its smaller size and lower absorption affinity, meaning shorter-chain PFAs have fewer carbon atoms, making them less hydrophobic and less likely to stick to the carbon surface of a GAC. Another effective treatment is reverse osmosis and nanofiltration membranes. These systems act as fine filters using high pressure to force water through a membrane that blocks PFAs and other contaminants. They are one of the most effective technologies for removing a wide range of PFAs, including both long and short-chain compounds. However, short-chain PFAs can sometimes slip through the membrane pores due to their small size. Ion exchange resin, or IX, can also be used in PFA removal. They are made up of porous, insoluble polymeric beads. There are two main types of IX resins, cationic and anionic. For PFAs, anion exchange resins are used because PFAs are negatively charged. These resins work by exchanging ions in the water with ions attracted to the resin, capturing PFAs, and in exchange, the resin releases harmless ions like chloride or hydroxide into the water.
Given how widespread and persistent PFAs are in the environment, it's clear that addressing this issue requires effective treatment methods. Fortunately, there are technologies and strategies being developed to remove PFAs from the water and reduce their impact on ecosystems and human health.
Encouragingly, countries throughout the world are starting to recognize the necessity to regulate PFA exposure. In April 2024, a French law banned PFAs in almost all products except for cookware. In the United States, the EPA finalized the National Primary Drinking Water Regulation, NPDWR, for 6 PFAs, setting the national limits for acceptable levels of PFA in water. In February 2024, the FDA finally announced that all American food manufacturers had stopped the use of PFAs in food packaging. According to the Safer States Alliance, 29 states have introduced 162 policies to protect people from toxic chemicals, while 154 state policies have been actually adopted within 30 states. Starting January 1st, 2025, both California and New York have banned apparel and textile articles containing PFAs as well. Similar regulations are being enacted throughout Australia, Japan, and the European Union. While PFAs are better regulated and understood now, there is still more work to be done.
Now you know that PFAs are pretty much everywhere and that they're very harmful, but don't worry, there are multiple actionable steps you can take to avoid exposure to them. You can begin by eating less microwavable foods like popcorn, eating less fast food or just avoiding it in general, using more stainless steel kitchenware or pans that state that they're PFA free, buying an NSF certified water filter that can remove PFAs from your tap water, avoiding dusty areas or rooms in general, or at least wearing a mask when you enter them, because dust provides the ideal environment for PFAs to accumulate. And finally, if you're very self-conscious about your health and you want to know exactly what to avoid, you can get a PFA blood test through companies like Quest Diagnostics.